When we need to prepare for a competitive event, our go-to company is the Army Painter.
Thanks to their complete range of paints, spray cans, and gaming tools, we're able to complete our new armies and units in no time.
When we need to elevate the quality of our models and terrain, the Army Painter is always our first choice.
You may not know this, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive events than any other hobby company.
Tournament and wargaming is in their DNA.
Visit thearmypainter.com to learn more about their amazing products.
And use promo code AMW Paints for a 5% discount from your Army Painter purchases.
What are you waiting for? Discover the best way to prepare your models for events with the Army Painter today.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting Art of War tier list. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Are you excited for Tier List Tuesday, Jack?
I mean, look at me.
You look pretty excited.
I'm pretty excited.
Today is Tier List Tuesday. This is where we at the Art of War go ahead and rank various things every week, depending on what kind of Tuesday it is. Today, we're going to be ranking the top 5 singles lists in the game.
Yep, there are some hot singles lists out there.
Absolutely. They're in your area, and they're trying to slide into your BCP app right now.
That's true. That's 100% true, and you know, maybe you should even let them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm super excited for those hot single sisters in the area. We'll be talking about all 5 of them soon. Oh, Jack can't handle the puns, and I appreciate it. So, if you are new to this channel, well, make sure you like this video, share with your friends, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about maybe some lists that we've missed. We unfortunately could only pick 5 due to the limitations that we imposed on ourselves. And so, let us know what you think.
Those rules they're very binding, man. Once we set them,
absolutely,
we didn't change them.
Absolutely. It really helps us grow the channel. And of course, if you want to get even more Warhammer content, well, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notified every time we go live. We go live several times a week to give you some awesome Warhammer 40,000 content. As well, you can find even more in our amazing war room, such as our coaching matches, some of our vaunted Jack theory, as well as our master classes on various factions. You can click on that link in the description below, and you can even get a free 3-day trial. If you've heard us hyping up the war room and, well, you're not sure yet, no problem. We got a free trial right down there for you.
Maybe you want to get your list submitted for Fix My List.
Ah.
Yeah, that's coming up on Thursday, so, you know, there's still time.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Jack.
Well, Mr. John, I was born ready. Let's talk about hot singles lists.
Well, let's give an honorable mention first, shall we?
I think this one is near and dear to our hearts.
It really is.
It's Marines.
Space Marines.
Space Marines. Space Marines are really damn good.
Space Marines are fantastic. They're the honorable mention here. They're not quite in the top 5, but maybe it's because we just couldn't pick an actual like list for Space Marines, because Space Marines today, they don't have any in the top 10. They might have like 3 in the, they don't have any in the top 5. They might have 3 in the top 10.
I legitimately think that the 6 through 10 is minimum 3.
Yeah.
Possibly 4 Marine builds. Mm-hmm. We're both Marine players. We love our Marines.
I do love Space Marines.
And we also love different versions of Marines.
We really do, but they're both good.
There's Iron Storm, which is a lot of tanks moving up board with a lot of buffs, just shooting a little too hard.
Blood Angels moving up field with a couple of jump packs and maybe punching too hard.
Yeah, that was a fun list to play, because I took it to an event, a team event we did. Mm-hmm. Then there's the Ultramarines Vanguard.
Still strong.
Still strong. There's Templar Gladius. Still strong.
I actually like Dark Angel Gladius.
I think the Gladius in general has a lot of different good builds that you can make out of it. If you want to take Space Wolf Gladius, you want to take Dark Angel Gladius, Blood Angel Gladius, Black Templar, generic Gladius, you're in good shape.
Absolutely. Before we dive into number 5, just want to give a quick thank you to Red Rum for their £2 super chat. Tier List Al Gaib.
Tier List Al Gaib.
We appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for the support. All right, are you ready to roll into number 5?
Yes.
All right, number 5 on our tier list is the Adepta Sororitas.
Yes.
Sisters of Battle.
So I think Sisters are a good team's army.
Yep.
Right? They can keep games close. Mm-hmm. They're a good singles army because they keep every goddamn game close.
It is very difficult to beat Sisters while being comfortable.
Yeah, it's always real close.
Yeah, it's real squirrely. They're always scoring points. They're always doing damage. One of the things that we really value highly in a singles list is that, well, since you don't really get to choose your matchups, BCP usually does that for you. You kind of have to be able to play against anything and then have room for the pilot to try and win the game.
Yeah, there's a reason why. So World Eaters, I think, on raw power could make the list. I'm actually a big fan of World Eaters right now. I'm taking them to DreamHack. But they are more unbalanced in terms of their matchups than something like Sisters, who have just rock solid matchups across the board. Now that might mean you have to work. You have to actually play 6 games of Warhammer. You don't get to blast people out of the water in some of your games, and then in some of your games have a hard game. But it does mean you're in every single game, and your opponent has to worry about you all the time.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some common themes of Sisters of Battle. Well, I noticed that most competitive Sisters lists take the Hollowed Martyrs attachment. Because Sisters are currently operating on their index, we know there's a codex in the nebulously soon future, which
soon, TM.
according to GW is either on Tuesday or in September, but it's soon.
So Hallowed Martyrs is the only detachment that is currently available.
Absolutely.
But it is quite strong. It is quite strong.
Yeah, some of the good units that are taking, like Triumph of St. Catherine, St. Celestine, they have some fantastic characters in the detachment, really some good epic heroes as well.
Paragons plus Vol, really strong.
I do like that a lot. The Volagons, as they're affectionately referred to.
I would totally play them if I were playing Sisters.
I cannot play a game without them.
Yeah.
It's like one of the scariest rapid ingress units in the game, but it could also just start on the table.
Bowling ball through a flank with real hits and wounds. And
I'm willing to spend 400 points on old one and his party just to reroll hits. You add the and wounds in there, also the Melta guns. It gets pretty spicy.
The guns don't stop, man. They have like 2 guns each, and then they reroll hits, wounds in combat, and then they have a tank shock. Yeah, they're super good.
Super great.
Super good.
Sisters are just a really strong MSU army.
Yes. Arcoflagellants really help clean up some things in combat and don't die quick. I mean, that's kind of the hallmark of the army, is it doesn't die quick.
Yeah, it's weird because I wouldn't describe Sisters as durable, but when you compare the points you're paying to the unit's defense, it's not fragile.
Yeah, their cheap little 50-point unit or whatever is 3...
It's a 3-up save.
There's 3-up save.
Yep.
In cover. So you throw AP1 at them and you're still like, I killed 2 Battle Sisters. Oh my god. It takes forever.
Being an MSU army is super strong right now, I think. Just because it allows you to always score points in the current missions. And if you are always scoring points, are not tabled by the end of the game, and you have a modicum of damage output, which I would say Sisters do, you're going to be in every game of Warhammer.
Yep. Also, they have a lot of guaranteed plays they can make.
Yeah.
That Melta shot goes through. I don't need to roll to see if I kill that character. They're dead. If I need to make a charge, I'm not going to roll a 4 on 2 dice and fail my charge and then get knocked out because of that. Nope, I'm just making the charge.
If I'm shooting Space Marine or Guard melted weapons at a mainline battle tank, my mental math is I need them to fail 4 saves for me to make sure they're dead. That's my mental math.
Yeah.
Because if it's 3 failed saves, I don't trust 3d6 to get a 12 wound tank dead.
At range?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At range.
Sisters?
2. 2 is the
every
number.
time. Sure, they might not have a couple of 6s lying around, but if they're doing good, resource management, they will.
No.
And then your tank died to 2 shots. I've had Exorcists kill my Caladius at range, out of line of sight, and it's like any other army. That is something I get, I get to be like, what is going on here? But every time they go through, they're just flat 6 damage, and suddenly, if you get shoot at enough with flat 6 damage shots, it hurts.
Yeah. If it's flat 6, it hurts, but it's not flat 6, it's flat whatever is needed. They don't have to waste the 6 once you're down to 3 wounds.
Exactly.
They just never roll the 1 and 2.
Yeah, and there's never, as you said, 1 shot goes through and you're at 4. Oops, I didn't kill it. No, you're dead.
Yep. Yeah, once you're in the danger zone, Sisters pushes you over the edge very well.
The breakpoints always work out in their favor, which is, part of their army design. And a bunch of, 3 multi-meltas is a credible threat to a tank in a way that they just aren't in, in other armies. So I think, Sisters are very consistent.
Yep.
They have a lot of units. They score really well. They're really hard to kill because they just have so much stuff. And they're just a great singles army.
Yep. Honestly, they're just fantastic. All right, are we ready to move on to our number 4 slot?
I think so.
Think we're ready?
I think we're ready.
Let's hit that next spot. The Grey Knights.
The Grey Knights. The Grey Knights. And you can see some of the units that Grey Knight players like to play with.
Grey/Knights.
Yeah, Grey.
Wish we had the camera on Jack for that.
Grey and/or Knights.
Grey and/or Knights, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is a very specific build. This is not take Grey Knights in any configuration that you want. This is, hey, what if there are some bunch of Dread Knights and you take all of them?
Yep.
You start your list with 6. And then you're like, how can I make this more annoying for my opponent? And there's a variety of ways you can do that. You can take a bunch of librarians. I've seen that done because they teleport around and hit people with Vortex of Doom and such like that.
And because that's not actually a shooting attack, that also really helps their scoring economy. Because normally these elite armies, such as Knights, sometimes struggle with their units have to be activating to keep up with the pace of the game.
Yes.
And then it's very hard to do actions, right? Once you go ahead and you take that poor Imperial Knight army and you kill their henchman and Calidus Assassin, and they're just staring at the table like, you tell me this, my Warglaive has to cleanse? Yes, I'm just not going to score these points because I have to activate.
Yes.
Like, that just happens.
A lot of these Grey Knight lists are fans of Canis Rex.
Canis Crutch, yep.
Canis Flex.
Canis Rex and Canis Flex.
That's right, because he contributes to the same game plan that the Dread Knights do, which is, I have too many walkers, you have too many holes in your face.
Yeah, there's a real point where if Canis isn't the front walker at a given time, it is very difficult to deal with him. Because most people don't have the long-ranged anti-tank to deal with Canis in the context of there are also Dread Knights in front of you.
Yes.
Like, could I kill Canis by himself? Yeah, I could. Am I willing to ignore all of Canis' friends to try and make that happen? Knowing that if I swing on Canis and leave him barely alive, I've done nothing?
No.
That is a dangerous gamble.
Also, the funny part about Dread Knight spam is they will hit you first.
You've got to be special to hit them first. It does not happen often.
3 of them are going to teleport.
Yep.
3 of them are going to move 14 inches, shoot, and charge.
With fly.
And Canis, yes, with fly. Glad you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And Canis is towering. So they will hit you first with everything. And now you have to respond to 6 Dread Knights that are kind of have pushed stats right now.
Yeah, they're just efficient stat lines. They're tough, they have a good invuln, good save.
13 wounds, a real bear.
You know what? That's 3 failed saves for sisters. That's over the line, and that is actually significant.
It is. It's also 5 damage, 3 failed saves. That's
instead of 4.
Instead of 4. Which is a big deal. And while you're dealing with that, you can be like, as you said, like, I'll shoot Canis, but even if I do kill him, getting shot and then charged by all of these Dread Knights.
That's a tough ask.
Yeah, but if I pause to deal with the Dread Knights, then Canis is just like
running through the wall. When Canis connects in combat, if you no longer have one activation, like one turn to kill Canis, if you don't have that in you anymore after you're done clearing the Dread Knights, Canis can end a game. Because you can't charge Canis and let him live. Because Canis hits back with the fury of 1,000 suns.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways to finish the list for sure. You could take triple Land Raider Redeemer, which is solid. I think we're in agreement that Canis is probably the best way to round that kind of stat check out.
I actually quite like the Redeemers.
You like the Redeemers?
I think saturating really efficient vehicles in Grey Knights is how I would just say the archetype is. We've seen it win events with Helverins. We've seen it win events with Canis. We've seen it win events with Redeemers. The Dread Knights are the part that no one's arguing over. I think I like Canis more because I really like Canis.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, multiple Redeemers is a drug I'd like to try.
That is true. What you're basically looking for is we have Dread Knights 1 through 6 in the list.
Yeah.
You're looking for Dread Knights 7 through 9. Or 7 through 10.
And they can't actually be a literal Dread Knight.
They can't be.
You can make more things that are annoying to deal with because they require the same effort as Dread Knights.
Yes. And you're just looking to take more of those kind of profiles. With the update to their shooting, Dread Knights are not very reliable shooting individually. But if 6 of them shoot you, yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Also, their Overwatch is really good at killing Aspect Warriors and things of that nature that would be trying to run around and do things.
Yeah, seriously.
Because they have the 2d6 611 heavy flamer.
Yep, which is a fierce Overwatch. with ignores cover.
18-inch range, just nasty.
Yep. And then you've got Redeemers. If you take those as more Overwatch, you get to a point, if you take that style list, where you do not approach without eating an Overwatch.
Yep.
So if you're the wrong profile trying to make an approach, you don't have an out.
Yes.
There's nothing to get near that isn't going to Overwatch your face off.
Also, mists into rapid ingress on a Grandmaster will just flip tanks. Will just flip monsters because he runs in there. He's not as fast as the regular Dreadnoughts. The regular Dreadnoughts are better. Turns out fallback, advance, shoot, and charge as a data sheet ability is gross.
Yeah, that's usually reserved for Chapter Masters and Epic Heroes and also generic Dreadnoughts.
That's right. So you can't really lock them down either. Their Hammer of Wrath is nasty. It's 16 dice Hammer of Wrath. Yeah, and then they have Strength 14, AP 3, damage D6 plus 1.
It's a good hit right there.
It's a good hit, and they hit on 3s, so that's pretty solid.
Yeah, just punch them with a Vindicator.
Now, Grandmasters move 8, which is a little hard to get into combat until you mists of Deimos to pull them off the board, and then Rapid Ingress to put them back on the board, and then they walk up, and their data sheet ability is reroll hits and wounds in combat for one of them against a monster or vehicle, and then you just go Hammer of Wrath and flip and carry on. There are other options here you can take if you want to. You can go for the Terminator package. It's not bad.
Nope.
It's quite good, actually.
I'd agree with that.
Paladins with a Grandmaster with Sigil of Exigence, really strong. Terminators plus Drago, really strong.
I feel like there just aren't bad options for those Grey Knights.
There are.
I mean, sorry. There are plenty of good options.
Crow plus Purifiers is good.
Yep.
There are trap options in Grey Knights. As long as you don't take... You start with 6 Dread Knights.
Don't take the Razorbacks.
And then don't take the Venerable Dreadnoughts.
God bless them.
Yeah.
And I think one of the strengths of this list in singles play is that it presents a very fierce stat check while also being an army that is quite mobile, and so it is not vulnerable to the same problems as other stat check armies. Because some stat check armies, you go up against something like Eldar, who just like fire and fades and move blocks, and then your unkillable stat check doesn't actually score enough points, and the Eldar outscore you. Grey Knights are very capable of hunting you down where you live and scoring points while they do it. And that's a big difference, where I think that puts Grey Knights at the top if you're trying to make a stat check list.
I can't imagine an Eldar list that has an over 20% matchup into Grey Knights.
It's hard.
That is like the hardest. Eldar are like fragile and try and get away from you, and Grey Knights are just like, no, I teleport 3 inches away.
Just keep teleporting the strength 6 flamers.
And then overwatching. Yeah. No, it's good.
It's rough.
Yeah. The best part would be to deep strike 12.1 inches away from a squad of warp spiders. So if they move, they get flash fried. And if they can't shoot you because they're over 12 inches away.
And then they phantasm closer, tank the shooting, and then they shoot you without taking Overwatch.
They're not going to shoot anyone if they tank the shooting. I'll tell you that much.
It's super solid. Just all the way down. I think Grey Knights are just a fantastic army right now. I think they're very strong in singles.
Yeah, it's also carrying on one of the best lists in teams as well.
Absolutely.
It's a great hammer.
Yep.
Really annoying to deal with.
Great in all contexts. Are we ready for number 3?
Well, I think before we get to number 3,
yeah, please.
I think we should put a disclaimer in. And the disclaimer is the meta is in actually a really good place right now.
I would agree with that.
And what that means is you can do well with basically any army at this point. There are some armies that are at the bottom of the barrel, and they will do less good, but you can still do well with basically anything.
Yeah, and I think if you're comparing top to bottom of the meta right now, because we always like to do our tier lists, it is definitely a much smaller gap than we've seen at other points. I think that the balance between armies in 10th edition is very good right now, even though there are some winners, and we still have a top 3 to go through, and some armies that didn't make the top 3 that are still very strong.
Yes.
There's one notable exception that we left off of the list, I think.
Yes.
But just about every army has won a tournament in this year. Like, I just don't think that there's an army out there right now that I look at and say, I don't think that can win a tournament.
Yes.
I just don't think that exists right now, which is fantastic because there have been so many times in Warhammer history where that has not been the case.
Yeah, I basically decide what army I take based off what I am vibing with.
Yep.
Like what I feel like playing, what I think I'll have a good time playing, and that is a great place to be in.
Yeah, that's very helpful right now.
Yeah.
So, on to number 3, and this is one I kind of wanted this in the 2 spot, but we're on the 3 spot here for Thousand Suns.
I think this is in the 3 spot for the same reason that Sisters makes the list, which is, well, it's in the 3, not number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Sisters, very reliable.
Yes.
T-Suns, you're riding the lightning.
Absolutely. They're so strong when they work. T-Suns have some just truly mind-boggling rules.
But
sometimes it stops working.
Yeah, so T-Suns, if you describe what they do, sound like they're playing 11th edition.
Yeah, no, like this is what I imagine old world players feel like when they get introduced to round bases.
Yeah.
Like...
Okay, so they have a selection on tap, on command of some of the best rules in 40k. You can move any unit again. You can even move it 3 times if the mood strikes you.
Why not?
You can turn off armor saves. You can do uninteractable mortal wounds. You can call in indirect. You can shoot insanely hard. You have a ton of rules. You can do free strats, you can reroll hits and wounds. You do a ton of stuff. The problem is, if you describe everything that T-Suns can do, they sound like number 1 with a bullet.
Yep.
That's not how it actually plays.
Yeah, when you play T-Suns, as long as everything works, they can stay up on you and they can just destroy you. However, when T-Suns start to take losses, they can be very impactful. If you make mistakes, the army's not very forgiving, because if you lose resources, right, like if you lose a tactical squad in your Space Marine army, you have lost the value that that tactical squad gives you and nothing else.
Yes.
If you lose a Rubricized squad with a sorcerer attached, Magnus might be worse because he has less Cabal points to function.
Yeah, and if you ever lose Magnus, the game ends on the spot unless it's literally turn 5 and you're already up on points.
Yeah, once Magnus is lost, you are now losing from that point. If you were up enough, great. If you're in a close game and you lose Magnus, it is going to slide away from you.
Yes, which can randomly just happen.
Sometimes someone throws a high grenade and Magnus fails 3 out of 3 Fort Benevolence, and you blank 1 and then they boxcar the damage rolls.
It's happened.
It shouldn't happen. Magnus shouldn't die to 3 las cannons, but if it does, nap time.
Yes. Now, all of those disclaimers being said, when this army
are so good.
When this army is firing on all cylinders, it feels unbeatable.
That is, yeah, agree.
Like, you just, on your way in, you're getting slowed down by disc sorcerers. You're getting Magnus indirecting you from across the map as he moves 32 inches in a turn, and then he's behind you while the army is shredding you with shooting because they shoot insanely hard. Yeah. Now, they shoot insanely hard up close, but if you're never in a position to exploit that, then you're just dead.
Yeah, because if they just kill the things that are close to them and the next thing isn't close to them because they teleported and triple moved to get into the optimal position,
okay.
Well, shoot, I guess not.
Also, double Doombolt every turn, it just, your opponent runs out of army at some point.
Yeah, but Doombolt is still one of the most offensive rules in the game. To me, a casual, humble person who sometimes fails their psychic powers on a 1.
Yeah, I had a T-Sun player ask, what's the average wound count in an enemy army? And it's just like, I don't want them to know how much of my army I'm going to, on average, delete with Doombolts over the course of a 5-turn game. Or am I going to be playing with half my army by the end of the game? Mm-hmm. Like, because you have an army roll? I'm playing with 1,000 points?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
The Cult of Magic detachment for T-Suns, obviously only their index, it's just phenomenal. Like, you have such tremendous buffs to their output, and there's nothing tough enough to comfortably tank T-Suns.
No.
There's nothing in the game that confidently passes the damage check, because T-Suns are not durable per point. They are Space Marines.
They're very fragile per point.
That are expensive Space Marines.
Yeah.
And they're very hard to nail down, and sometimes they make a thing way tougher than it should be by re-rolling and blanking saves, and then Magnus specifically is -1 damage, and that man does not bat 50% on Fort Benevolence. I don't want to hear it. That man bats 90%, I swear. Magnus, what a jerk. Maybe it's because every time he fails one, he re-rolls it, then blanks it. And it's like, stop. But if you can get to them, big trouble. If you can't, it's just fast teleporting, double moving Marines, blasting you with 4 grenades at 18 inches, and then shooting you with reroll wounds, ignore cover, indirect.
+1 to hit,
That's
+1
dev
to
wounds,
wound.
+1 hit, +1 wound.
Yeah, flip dice to 6s.
Yeah, no problem. Just comical.
Reroll hits and wounds, if you didn't already say it in that rules extravaganza.
I don't even think I mentioned the reroll hits and wounds battle tactic.
On 2 different units.
That feels important.
Or rubrics that have a bunch of flamers that reroll wounds against you.
Sure.
And it's a hellacious amount of damage. Yep. Like, I played it into Canoptic Court and just carved through Wraith squads like they weren't even there.
You cannot be tough enough to be comfortable against T-Suns.
No. But you can never be comfortable in a game against T-Suns, but T-Suns player can also never be comfortable. Mm-hmm. Because at any point, an extra unit dies, and that just starts the cascade of, like, not even, you don't have enough Cabal points, although that is a horrific problem if it starts going wrong. You just don't have enough activations to deal with, like, a rhino and the dudes inside. So then the dudes, like, get to you and kill you if you don't have enough activations left at that point.
That's very bad, as discussed.
Yes, and then
you
it
don't
spirals.
have that many dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, T-Suns are great when they're great, but if it goes wrong, it can spiral. And we've actually seen T-Suns have a tremendous amount of success in singles events recently. I think they've won a major in each of the last 3 weekends, and I think multiple in at least one of those.
They're very good. They're very good, and they do reward the schemer and the plotter and the planner who gets their plan just exactly right, because then their opponent, it's not even like they're playing the game.
Oh yeah, if Tzeentch is with them and nothing that should work goes wrong, if they don't have something that, it usually works, if none of that spirals, T-Suns feel unstoppable.
Yeah. But
they're not number one because we have seen that sometimes, not every time, but sometimes T-Suns trip a little bit and then snowball.
Yeah. I mean,
you stub your toe and you flatline.
They're approaching the point singularity where like points no longer is a good balancing mechanic for the army.
It does feel that way.
Because I will tell you, building T-Suns lists is no fun.
Some people seem to be having fun.
For me, anyway. And the reason it's no fun for me is because you don't get a lot of units. Mm-hmm. That being said, each of those units is like painting a tapestry of your opponent's death onto their face. Yeah. But I think that we need to tone down what they do and just give them more units, and the army gets to...
That would be a happy trade.
Breathe a little more.
Happy trade.
But it is a very strong army right now. Mm-hmm. Just a little inconsistent.
Yep. Yeah, and that consistency is what keeps them out of the one spot. Because some armies that are inconsistent have been kept out of the top 5 when you could make a strong argument for them.
Yes.
Again, there will be some notable exceptions by the end of this list.
Yes.
But T-Suns, we feel, are so strong that that problem lowers them but doesn't knock them out.
Yeah.
Because when they do work, so good.
I mean, the flavor of T-Suns is perfectly, is perfectly channeled into their play style. Which is, there's this wizard who's got this 17-step plan, and it's all perfect. But if you punch him in the face, maybe it just doesn't work. But if it does work...
I do like punching wizards in the face as soon as they stop triple moving their 39-inch indirect guy. Also,
what the hell is a Mutalith Vortex Beast? I know what it is. Why is it so tough?
Why is it so cheap?
It used to be 145. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure. All right. Well, before we move on to our number 2 spot, I think we should address this super chat from Elvari. Thank you so much for the £10 super chat, Elvari. I'm just after coming back to competitive 40k after 9th. I play all of the elves. I want to do a custom-made proxy army. What army would you recommend for longevity and fun rules with some tanky units?
Interesting. You should ask. I think Eldari?
Eldari, yeah.
Eldari, yeah. They're not known to be tanky, but they have some tanky units.
Mm-hmm. They really can. I mean, it feels almost obvious to recommend I play all the elves, play elves. However, I genuinely think that current Craft World Eldar, does combine longevity, because Eldar are never bad.
They're never bad.
The Eldar players definitely have fun rules, and some tanky units is exactly how I describe Eldar. Not a tanky army, some tanky units.
The Avatar of Cain with -1 to wound and Fate Dice is a wild experience to watch your opponent shoot at.
Some tanky, yeah.
I had a guard player shoot his tanks at the Avatar of Cain and do 4 damage. It was an experience.
Needed more tanks.
He needed more tanks.
All right. T-Sons were number 3.
T-Sons were number 3. What do we got
On
next?
to the number 2 slot. Ready?
The Tau Empire. I know that there is some doomerism out there over Tau, and I do not understand it. Like, I understand why people feel that way. People do a certain way with the list before it gets nerfed, and then they don't do as good with the list after it gets nerfed. But Tau are a wild army right now. They're really goddamn good, and they're really consistent.
That is how I feel as well. Tau obviously took I don't want to say massive, but they took a noticeable points hit from the codex, from the pre-codex points to the post-codex points. And because we had that weird interim of like 2 months where we only had old points and new codex, you got to play with that like you were, like you were God.
It was the best army in the game, not close. It was insane.
It definitely felt that way. But now, Tau are merely costed appropriately, and they just happen to have very good rules.
Yes. Yeah, so Mont-Ka does a lot. I mean, you can decide to be Retaliation Cadre, you can decide to be Callion, you can't decide to be Crute. Those are Crusade rules.
They're legit. You just have to, like, I don't know, paint all those Crute, which is hard. It's not as good as Mont-Ka as I think what that circles around to.
Yeah. So Mont-Ka has an insane suite of rules, to the point where I don't even like remember all of them until Richard whips it out and tables me with them. Like just removing entire units off the board. Lethal hits army wide is pretty gross. Advance and shoot is really good.
Yep.
Flat 6 advance and then get out of a transport and then shoot with breachers that reroll wounds on objectives, and it's a lot. It's a hell of a lot. They have fast units, they have good shooting, and that is just great in 40k generally.
Yes, and they can leverage a lot of damage output. And they have, I mean, the list that I see the most are like triple Riptides, triple Hammerheads, couple Breacher Fish. Take your flavor of Stealth Suits, Piranhas, and Ghost Keels to like finish out the list.
Yes.
And Hammerheads, Riptides just provide an incredible shooting core to a list. Just fantastic.
Yep. Hammerheads with either gun option, really.
I still don't know what the best gun is for Hammerheads. I just know that I am disappointed every time they fire at me. Not in the Hammerhead, in all of my units.
Yes.
Like, oh god, this hurts so bad. I wish I had the railgun. Get shot by a railgun. God, I wish they'd taken the ion.
I really don't want to be taking this 6 plus d6 damage shot right now.
Hope I passed my 6 up. Oh no.
Oh god, my tank dead. Yep. I think Ion is more consistent and therefore probably better, but he has a hellacious amount of shots.
Yeah,
like it's 2 Seekers, d6 plus 3 shots into vehicles. When you're guided, it hits on 2s. It rerolls a hit and a wound. You can give it you can give 2 units plus 1 AP.
A shocking amount of little shots underneath as well.
Yeah. No, just little brrr cannons.
Yeah, little burp cannons.
Little burp cannons. Also, Riptides at 165 were a war crime. Riptides at 185 are just really good.
They're just good.
They're just really good.
Yeah, the damage output of Riptides is still very spooky, and killing all of it without exposing yourself to a thunderous counter shooting is very difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can take Richard's list from DreamHack that's coming up.
Sure.
And it's, if I remember correctly, if it's the list he was currently working on when he talked to me, it was 3 Riptides, 3 Hammerheads, 3 Breacher Fish units. And that covers the spectrum of every target you possibly want to try to kill. If you want to kill tanks, don't worry, it does that. I've had my... I had my Righteous Crusader Redemptors in cover with Armor of Contempt just get absolutely shredded by them. That's not an issue. And if you are dealing with a quantity of wounds, Breachers are really good at clearing those as well.
Yeah.
and then you back it up with still a decent amount of units.
Yeah, and I think what sets Montka apart for me is that for it being a good shooting output army, which it is, but it's not the only one in the game, it is very mobile. You have the potential for scout moves on almost anything. You have the potential for flat 6 advances in shooting on almost anything. Lethal hits does mean that there is nothing that I would say is beyond their grasp to kill.
Yes.
And just that ability to control the table and go very fast is really, really dang strong.
Yeah, it's just a good army, man. It plays 40k really well.
Yeah, it's not really trying to countercharge you, but if it shoots you hard enough, then that's not really a weakness anymore.
Yeah, and it moves fast, which is usually the downside of heavy shooting armies, is that they're slow and immobile.
Yeah.
If you're Eldar, if your unit's trying to get away from them or trying to hide, you're going to get hunted down.
Yeah, that's a big thing, is most shooting lists, armies that are not durable enough to tank it, which most shooting lists outshoot most people's defense. That's why they're good.
Yeah.
You can try to hide, you can try to pre-measure, you can try to make sure that you're safe. And you know, a decent shooting army, you can be like, you move exactly 10 in fire, I will pre-measure the angle. Something that advances in shoots, you can be like, I will pre-measure 16. Well, sometimes the hammerhead starts its shooting phase in your deployment zone on top of 1 because it just went first scouted, moved 16, and you just can't hide from that.
Not hammerhead, the breachers? Or whatever?
Yes. I have seen a hammerhead enter my deployment zone on turn 1 because it got a line of shooting that killed something more expensive than a hammerhead. And then I had to bring something out to deal with the hammerhead.
Yep.
It's spooky. Like, sometimes the gun might move 22 inches and shoot you. Yes. Turn 1 is very hard to deploy against.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in breachers, going 21, going 18 in the transport, getting the breachers out 3, and then shooting is just an insanely hard thing to hide from.
You can also have those in your deployment zone shooting you, and so the conventional hide from gun angles don't work if they're fast enough. And all their guns do kind of just fly. Yep.
All their guns fly, all their guns hit really hard, all their guns move very fast, and they still have a decent amount of units.
Yeah.
Riptides, dude, they are so tough. Like, why are Riptides, 14 wounds? A toughness 9?
That sounds right. That sounds accurate, yep.
That's insanely tanky. Like, and you're staring down 3 of them? Like, you're staring down 3 of them, you're going to get shot multiple times before you get through that.
Yeah, most armies don't have the right profiles to pop multiple Riptides, and then the Riptides shooting back with the once-a-game dev wounds. As was noted in the chat, there's a strong argument that I've not been able to debunk that you can roll the wound rolls and then pop dev wounds.
In my reading of it, you can't, because it's when you roll the dice, when you roll the 6, that is when you trigger the dev wounds.
That's not how dev wounds works now.
How does it work now?
Is your opponent can't take saves against critical wounds. It's not when you roll a critical wound, your opponent can't take saves. They reverse the order on just dev wounds for no reason. Anyways, most people don't play it that way. I don't know why. I sat down with a German man for 10 minutes looking at this, and I still couldn't debunk it. So at this point, I'm just asking, hey, please don't do that.
Okay.
I think we've all agreed. Let's just do the reasonable thing.
I think fast rolling makes it kind of silly, but
yeah.
It's whatever. Getting dev wounds once a game in whatever order you get it is pretty ridiculous.
Still good. Yeah.
They also just have a bunch of guns, right? They have missile pods, and they have twin linked plasma. They do a ton of damage.
Yeah. Damage output, if you can deliver it, is usually better than damage output you can't deliver. And Tau just marry the best of both worlds. I think that makes Tau very strong right now.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the second best singles list.
That's how
right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what are its weaknesses.
It doesn't like people. Well, one, it hates going second against someone who is fast and small. If you can connect on them, or if you can weather the storm, I don't know. Like, I don't think Tau likes going against Ironstorm because you're just rolling off. But like, I don't think Tau have a ton of hard counters right now at all. Yeah. And I do think that Tau can match up relatively well into a lot of the other top armies.
Yes.
Like, I think Tau can lose to some of the other top lists, but I don't think any of the things that we've put in the top 5 just do beat Tau. They just can beat Tau, but the Tau player has some agenda in all of it.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think it's just really good. Montka is the best one. I mean, stealth suits are a great skirmish unit if we're going up the list. Like, they're great skirmish, great support, because they give the real ones to hit and wound. Piranhas are cheap. Forced battle shock checks randomly are still a vehicle that you have to deal with the same guns that want to be going after things that are shredding you. And they scout really far. Devilfish plus Pathfinder, or Devilfish plus Breachers we talked about. Hammerheads we talked about. Riptides we talked about. Pathfinders get to infil scout.
Oh, God, what a combo.
They also have 3 ion rifles, John. Why? And then they guide 2 different things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is our number 2 spot, which I believe, if my math is correct, leaves us with 1 army left. And that means that one of the 2 armies that has been most commonly listed in the chat is being left off. But there's 1 left. Are you ready to roll into it? Drum roll. Necrons.
Yeah, so, Canoptic Court.
Canoptic Court's pretty good.
Still really good.
Yep.
Still really good. Ultimately, I think Necrons have had a lot of experimentation with them, and the Hypercrypt is good, solid, doesn't make top 5. It is, Canoptic Court is the...
Canoptic Court is what makes it there.
Yes.
And real quick, I do want to give a massive shout out to Sanguinius's Left Walnut for gifting 5 Art of War 40k memberships. Thank you so much. If you got gifted a membership, make sure that you click that accept as well.
Yeah.
All right. Canoptic Court still on top. This was definitely the undisputed king in like early April. And then it did get toned down, but we still are keeping it at the top here.
Oh yeah, it's good. It lost some amount of points.
Yep. Some,
not enough.
Possibly not enough.
Yes. It's really good. You got these insanely durable units that you have to work around multiple different ways your opponent can keep them safe.
Yeah.
1, they're really tanky. B, they can run away when you get near them. So if you're trying to charge them, it does make life annoying. So even if you have a unit that can hit them, you still have to maneuver around that.
Yep.
And they can lone up strat.
Yeah, lone up, reactive move, being tough, and healing. Great combos.
Yes.
Dealing with this is very hard. This is one of the armies that I think, obviously we put them as 1 in Tau, number 2. I think Court can beat Tau.
I think
Doesn't have to do it every time, but I really think it can.
Doomstalkers are a massive problem. I believe they're still 135.
They definitely didn't go up, so whatever number made me mad before, they are still that number.
135 will still make you mad.
Yep.
Doomstalkers with reroll hits, Overwatch on 5s, reroll hits, and access to the lone up strat means they're really annoying to deal with. They also have 12 wounds with a 4-up infilm, so they're really annoying to deal with generally. And they shoot really hard. 14, strength 14, AP 3, damage 3, reroll hits, D6 plus 1 shots, blast, and heavy.
Yeah. If you go for some of the variant builds that have the Silent King, you can choose for them to either be rerolling 1s to wound or ignoring mods, depending on what flavor of defense your opponent is trying to throw at you, usually in vain.
Yes.
But I gotta say, ignoring mods on AP 3, damage 3 means that no one is getting better than a 4-up save. Ever.
Yes.
And they are often not getting a 4-up save.
No, AP3 is pretty good, especially on Overwatch. It's not like 3 Doomstalkers is going to single-handedly table your opponent. But there it's a lot of damage. That and the Silent King is really nasty. It all heals. It's really annoying to deal with. Catan...
Even going up in points. I am so grateful every time I see a Necron player cut their Catan. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, because, sure, Transcendence went up 10.
It's still tough.
They're 285 now.
To the 275?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, sure, Nightbringer went up a lot. That was good.
Thank you, Games Workshop.
That was good. But, the regular Catan, the Transcendent, teleporting around, being a tough jerk, and just being impossible to goddamn kill is super annoying.
Yeah, I'm glad to see less Catan, but we still see them, and we still see them do well. As well, getting access to a couple things like Plasma Enters, just dousing mortals on the tough target. Because Necrons sometimes have a damage output problem, right?
Yes.
None of the armies here are perfect.
Yeah, they definitely have the issue of Wraiths can punch their way out of a wet paper bag, but if that paper bag dries out a little, then they might not be able to.
Yep.
like I've had Wraiths punch up into a lot of stuff. They can do a lot of random mortals, right? They fly over you, then they have dev wound guns that reroll to hit, and then by the time they're charging you, you're not at 100%.
Yeah.
So Wraiths have better damage than people like talk about, but there are some things Wraiths do not solve, right? Terminators with Armor of Contempt, things of that nature.
Yep.
The Catan, the Immortal, the Plasmancers definitely help there. Doomstalkers definitely help there. Silent King helps. For sure. So it helps to solve for those kind of like 2-up save Armor of Contempt or high toughness or what have you, right? Like a Land Raider, Wraiths aren't killing a Land Raider.
Yeah, that is quite rare for them to be able to pull off that kind of feat.
But 3 Plasmancers, suddenly it's at 10 wounds, and you shoot it with the Doomstalkers, and suddenly, it's dead.
Yeah, then suddenly they flew over it and then shot some damage, 1 Devil Wound gun, so that was, another 4 or 5 damage between the two, and suddenly the Redeemers chipped way lower. And a 4-wound Redeemer does not like getting charged by Wraiths.
No.
It will lose that fight.
Eventually, yes. And the healing is substantial. The Technomancer can heal D3 wounds. Every unit in the army heals for D3 at the start of their turn. They can heal for more if you charge them. Not in Canoptic Court, there's other ways to mess with it. There's also not Doomstalkers, Reanimators. Canoptic Reanimators are only 75 points and have a 4-up Feel No Pain. And those things are just good, like, run around and do secondary units, but also, randomly I was next to a Wraith, and I rolled a 5, so 2 Wraiths are back, and now I'm going to heal it with my Technomancer, and tee-hee-hee-hee, now I have 2 Wraiths back of this unit that was at 3.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. Also, if a Catan gets knocked down to 4 and is next to a Reanimator and goes up to 8, and then a Techno walks over and goes dink dink, it's up to 10, and you might not have the bandwidth to deal with that ever again.
Yeah. Just the reanimation aspect of Necrons in general is super strong mechanic right now. Where I think this kind of lands for why Canoptic is so good, and I want to emphasize that this is a singles list, because I actually think that Canoptic is less good in teams than it is in singles. I think Canoptic Court is just super reliable into the field.
Yep.
It's very good into everything. It does not love playing against T-Suns or Tau, but it definitely can play against both.
Yes.
You've got the super durable units. It controls the center quite well. It has plenty of damage. It has very good stratagems. It has good shooting. And it has tech pieces you can put in to solve several different matchups.
Yep. If you want to take any of these 5 armies, any of these 5 lists, anything like that, and you want to take them to an event, the list will support you.
Absolutely.
Yep. The list will do good work for you.
Yeah.
It'll put you in a position to do as well as you could. Yeah. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think, Necrons probably give the most of that, and that's why they ended up the top of the list. But they definitely are not the be-all, end-all. They definitely can lose to other things on this list, and the things that weren't on this list. Because again, I think that the band of the meta is a lot thinner than normal. There's just less space between the top and the bottom of the pile right now. It's all condensed. There's a lot of armies that are contentions here. I mean, we mentioned, I think, more than 10 armies while we were discussing who was going to make top 5.
Yes.
And usually that is not the case. I'm actually quite happy with how we've ended up for the meta right now.
Yeah, I think there's a list for every playstyle, and I think there's also a list that can do well for 95% of the armies.
Yeah, there's at least one build. There's at least one thing.
There's at least something you can do to get power out of your army, and I think that's sick. Because if you've been playing for a long enough time, like we have,
Yep.
Because I've been doing this for 12 years. How long have you been playing?
Don't say that. 16.
16.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, if you've been playing for a long enough time, you know there were periods of time where there were 3 armies that could play the game, and there were a bunch of armies that could watch.
Yeah, and you got to play against the other armies until you hit one of the top 3.
Yes.
And then you went back down to playing against the other armies.
Yes. Or you played the top 3 armies.
Yeah.
And that is just wildly not the case right now. I think almost every army can compete. Almost every army can win an event.
Yep.
And I think that's a fantastic place for the meta to be at right now.
I fully agree. Well, I think that wraps up our top 5. I think it does.
I think so.
So, if you're watching this, please hit the like button, especially if you like the video. Leave a comment. We'd love to know what you think, as always. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's how you get notified every time we go live, and it really helps us grow the channel. It helps us keep the lights on, keep making tier list videos like this for you. So make sure you hit all those buttons as well if you want to get even more amazing Warhammer 40,000 content. Check out the link in the description below or become a member of this channel. That's how you get access to the War Room. We even have a free 3-day trial on our website. If you want to check out our awesome coaching matches, master classes, theories, strategy sessions, puzzles, and more, you can check all that out in the War Room. And if you sign up through the website, you can even get access to it on our Android and iOS app for free.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we will all see you next time.
Bye-bye.